I met Chris originally about 14 months ago, and then I started studying for my license. Had some things for the summer. I'd left another corporate role and had some plans for the summer, and then really began getting my first leads and running appointments and such right at a year ago, 12 months ago. So I was an executive in the corporate world. I've been in direct sales, in-home direct sales for the better part of 30 years, starting off originally with Brings Home Security. And then worked my way into executive leadership with that organization. I was with Brings for 13 years. Then I took on a role with Cox Communications, and I spearheaded and developed the entire direct sales channel for Cox Home Life, which is an additional service added to their video, voice, and data portfolio. Was there for 6 years as an executive director, and then I took on a role as the vice president of sales with Blue Ribbon Foods. And just kind of got tired of the corporate rat race and the insurities there, the reorganizations, the mergers, the acquisitions, the not sure after you've spent years and years of your life if you really have a true future in a corporate scenario. And so I've always been entrepreneurial spirited. I've always owned my own businesses as well on the side of my corporate roles. And so I always liked the opportunity to be able to work for myself and build my own business. I was intrigued by the business model and the structure, the training, and how easy it was for me personally and my skill set and experience, both in sales and as a team builder from a national perspective for me, and being able to plug and play literally into the system. I think what really appealed to me was that all of the framework and structure that we have here, from allowing people to be onboarded with the virtual mentor and stage 1, 2, and 3, phone scripts, conference calls, all those types of things were already in place. Whereas, for an example, when I went to Cox, I spent the better part of a year to 18 months working cross-functionally with other departments to build the foundation so that we could then actually launch an entire direct sales channel. This has allowed me to jump in from day one. And that's what I really like. As I mentioned before, I've got about 30 years of in-home direct sales experience. So one of the things that really worked well for me, while I didn't know anything about insurance, literally a year ago before I came here, I didn't know virtually anything. But I understand direct sales and the in-home sales process and customer engagement and how to be able to provide solution-based selling and be able to create the interest, need, and desire within the client for the product, but also provide the correct solution. There are two situations that kind of come to mind. One, as it relates to final expense, my wife's mother passed away several years ago, and she didn't have life insurance, and it was really on the rest of the family to try to come up with the funds necessary to give her proper final services, right? So that strikes close to home, clearly. But I also have a good friend of mine about 20 years ago, long before I was ever in the insurance business, who was married, 3 young daughters, and had a life insurance policy for himself. It wasn't necessarily specifically mortgage protection, but it was a sizable amount that could have provided for his family if he were to pass. And he was actually killed in a car wreck, and this was in Houston. And he had canceled his life insurance policy a few months prior to that because he didn't think that he needed it. And so his wife and his young daughters were in a very, very bad situation financially because they weren't able to maintain the same level of lifestyle and overhead because of not only his loss, but loss of future income. So I realized at that point just how important having life insurance is to make sure that your family is left with enough to provide a legacy, for your children, and that you're able to give them a strong foundation for their lives if you're not able to be here to provide that for them. Sure. I think one of the biggest changes I've seen in myself is really I knew when I found this opportunity that it was something special. When I left the corporate world, I was looking for my next, right? Wasn't sure what I wanted to do at other corporate offers. I found my last in this opportunity. And so I think what really has changed in me over the last 12 months is is further solidifying my perspective in that regard and my resolve to know where I'm going with this opportunity and where I will be over the next 2 to 3 years. And that perspective is even more clear now than it was in my initial excitement about finding the opportunity a year ago. There's two quotes specifically that resonate with me. One is a quote by Nelson Mandela, and that quote is, "It's always impossible until it's done." Right? And another one is by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and that quote is, "The true measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy." And those have resonated with me my entire life, and I think mean the most to me.